Hey, today's video is on subtraction of integers, and it's just really an introduction. I'm trying to give you a visual on how to properly subtract integers and kind of give you the concept behind doing that method. All right, here we go. So let's take a look at the integer tiles there in the upper right hand corner. And if we just try to figure out what the value is there, I have a 0 pair, 0 pair, 0 pair, and another 0 pair. So I'm left with a -2. Okay? So we kind of know that we have that in the back of our mind. Okay? So the value of this is a -2. Another thing that I could probably note is that there's 4 positives, and then there's 6 negatives. Okay? So that's kind of just our key important information from this problem. And then it says, what happens if we were to remove 3 positive tiles? Okay, so if I were to take my 3 positive tiles and remove them out of here, then I'm going to be left with, here's a 0 pair, and then 5 negatives. So that would give me 5 negatives. Okay? Okay? And then if we were to remove 3 negative tiles, so on this one, we're going to remove 3 negative tiles, and now my 0 pairs, I have a 0 pair, 0 pair, 0 pair, I'm left with a +1. Okay, and the way that we would represent that is subtract a -3. Okay, so on the previous problem, when we took away 3 positive tiles, we just subtracted 3. When we subtracted the second one, we took away negative tiles, so that's why we subtracted a -3, which then gave us an answer of +1. Okay, so if you were to represent this beginning one, we would just have a -6 plus 4. Okay, and then on the other one, so now we have our -2, and we subtracted 3, which got us to a -5. And then on the other one, we had a -2, and we subtracted a -3, and that got us to a +1. Okay, so you can kind of look at that and think about that. You have your visuals up here in the upper right hand corner to kind of help you get to that point. All right, we're going to take a look at some examples, and again, just trying to really give you a visual on this so you have kind of an understanding. So just looking at at A, I have 8 positives right there, but then I have a 0 pair here. So that doesn't do anything to my answer. But then when I go to this then, I end up with 8 positives, and it looks like I'm subtracting a -2. So when I actually end up subtracting this -2, I'm taking it away, and I'm left with 10 positives, which really seems weird, but once you see the visual of the 2 negatives being removed, because I can have as many 0 pairs as I need, it's just like a decimal. When I add the zeros to it, it's not going to change the value of it. So I can add as many 0 pairs as I want and remove those negatives, and I'm actually left with the positives. Okay, so going on to B, if I were to do that visual, so I'd have 8 negatives. So there's my 8 negatives, and then I'm going to do 3 0 pairs, just because I have this minus a -3. Okay, so when I move on to subtracting my -3, here are my 3 negatives. If I remove them, I'm left with my 3 positives. So then I have my 3 positives. There's a 0 pair, there's a 0 pair, and there's a 0 pair, leaving me with an answer of -5. Okay? C, it is cold. The first time I looked at the thermometer today, it said it was 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Then it dropped 5 degrees. How cold is it now? So this one's pretty basic, where you start at 0. It goes down 5 degrees, which means it's -5 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not uncommon here in Minnesota. All right, here are my last examples. I'm going to build these. Again, it's not my expectation that you build them. It's more of just trying to give you that visual and understanding on how to solve them. So here's kind of my last problems. All right, so I have 7 positives. So there's my 7 positive tiles. And then I'm going to take away the 5 positives. So I want 5 0 pairs. And here are my positives. Remove them, so then I end up with 5 negatives. So I'm actually just going to cross these off. And obviously if I had integer tiles, I could just be removing them. And that's going to leave me with an answer of 2. All right, moving on to the next one. So I have 0. And then I'm going to subtract 4. So 4 0 pairs, because that does nothing. And we subtract our 4. So we remove that, and we're left with 4 negatives. Okay? All right, -6. So I have 6 negatives. And then I have 2 0 pairs. And we're going to subtract 2. So because we're subtracting 2, that's actually the positive, so that's a little bit what's confusing. So if I subtract those 2, I actually end up with 8 negatives. Okay? All right, I have 3 positives on the next one. And then I have 4 0 pairs. And on this one now, we are subtracting a -4. So these 4 negatives are going away, leaving me with an answer of +7. Okay? All right, so now I have 8 negatives. And I'm going to do 5 0 pairs. So my second number is always my 0 pairs that I do. And I am getting rid of the 5 negatives because it's minus a -5. And when I do that, I actually end up with, so I have the 5 positives. Those are going to be what I get rid of. So these are gone. This one's gone, leaving me with a -3. And then finally I have a -1 and then 9 0 pairs. And I'm going to do some more right here just to kind of break it up. All right, and then on this one now we are subtracting our 9 negatives. So that's going to go away, that's going to go away because of the subtraction of 9 negatives. Okay, and then I have that zeroes out with that, leaving me with 8. Okay, once again, this video is just to provide you a visual on how to subtract integers.